Well, it's wonderful to meet you. We can go ahead and hop in, and I want to begin
Sure.
our journey with 5 years ago. This pandemic was raging, changing the world, changing all of us. How did you survive the pandemic of 2020, and how has it affected the way you do things now?
So that's twofold for me. So I had four kids, two were in college, they moved home at the time. And had the pandemic not happened, you and I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
So I was, prior to the pandemic, I was inside teaching guys inside San Quentin to get their GED. And I was moved by their vulnerability, their truth. And for me, being an educator, it felt like an injustice not to then share that with the world. So I approached a friend inside, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, Diane." He was the senior editor of the San Quentin News at the time. He's like, "I've always wanted to share the men's story in blue, but I've never had the platform." So at that time, I was also following an online platform called Humans of New York.
Yeah,
You familiar with that?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Brandon Statton just emulated what he was doing exactly. And um, so our initial idea was to interview someone in prison and then put their story up online in San Quentin. Well, fast forward now, 5 years later, my business partner inside and I made a introductory packet, and he literally passed it between cells. I had my roster, we mailed it out, and we're in over 200 prisons in the U.S. People have contacted me. I've been in prison in Oslo and Dublin and Medellin, Colombia, and Guatemala City and Melbourne, Australia. It's really taken off like crazy. So it literally started kitchen table story with my four kids at home, teaching me about Google Docs and questions and all that good stuff. So, yeah, here we are.
So let me ask you this. If we boil down exactly what you do on a daily basis, to do that, I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds at career day. The kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I say I interview people in prison and I put their stories up online.
So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream?
Hmm. It was the 80s and I was in Sacramento, California.
Okay.
I didn't know, but I knew that I liked teaching. And I really very much admired those people in front of me.
Interesting side note with Sacramento. Molly Ringwald, right? Okay. Her dad, Bob, is a jazz pianist from Sacramento. He has a
Really?
festival out there. I've interviewed him. He plays at pizza shops. He just kind of tends to play at more sedate, non-big places, but he's definitely from there. So I didn't know if you had ran into him and seen him play or anything like that out
No,
there.
I haven't, but I admire her. She, I think, had her peak when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I very much admire her. But no, I haven't.
Yeah, she's a
Interesting.
jazz singer now. She has a couple albums out. So,
Really?
yeah, her dad would play piano and she would sing. That was kind of one of the ways that she kind of broke into show business.
Yeah, and you've interviewed him, I suspect.
Yes, and he was totally interesting. He had a show on K Jazz, which is out of LA. And he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's a great cat. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I'm curious how we got here because this is fascinating to me. And I think that before I get into that, I think I kind of want to play off of what you're talking about. Everybody gets hung up on, taking crime off the streets and fixing the system and all of these things, but no one thinks about the rehab, about the fact that these are human beings that have gone through things in their lives, and we ultimately want to get them back out into society. How
Right.
hard is that for you to watch that kind of, I mean, is it enlightening? What's the process like for you to know that ultimately it would be great if these people you could meet them on the outside afterwards?
Mhm. So it's difficult. There's a couple different forks in the road that we can take here. One, I think that's the most startling thing to know is that when I sit down to talk to people in prison, and simply like you and I, or when you meet a friend and you ask that first question, "How are you?" Many of them will break into tears because people don't ask them that. And then to actually think that you're sitting there to talk to them and not to their crime is startling. No one does that in prison, right? It's the very first question, knee jerk is, "What'd you do?" Right? Um, so I feel like my job is a gift, right? To be able to sit down with people and they trust me and to be able to tell me their story. But then it's also heartbreaking. So Half of our nonprofit is run by our inside team inside San Quentin. I was sitting there yesterday with, he goes by Ben Shua. He'd been to the parole board. It was his 13th time last Tuesday that he was denied. So I have these, a lot of people and a lot of friends that I think are rehabilitated. I spend time with them. So to not see them out here, the most startling thing that I notice in there with all the people that I meet is their emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So I would love to be able to have more of those people out here, letting people know that it's really okay to cry and to laugh and be a little more sensitive and be more human, which is exactly what we are taught by the media not to think. So for me, my job is to get that message that CNN, CBS, all of them have told us, look, they're criminals, we're safer without them, and flip it. So what happens if people like you and I don't go in there? If there's no rehabilitation happening, our streets are actually more dangerous because there is no rehabilitation happening.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this. Take me back to your beginnings in Sacramento. What were these journalistic seeds, these empathetic seeds, these therapeutic seeds that were planted into you that eventually were harvested into this career that it's evolved into where you're at today?
So I grew up Catholic, and my mom was very much a philanthropist, and um, I was always taught, being the youngest of seven, that you're always there to help other people. And I really believe that the more someone does for someone else, so acts of service, that's truly where the true nuggets of happiness are. And I think it was in the late 90s, or sorry, the late 80s, when that movie Silence of the Lamb came out.
Yeah.
And I've wanted that scene where Jodie Foster walks down into that basement and she's sitting there face to face with Hannibal Lecter. And I want that kind of psychological twist. I haven't yet found it. I think I may have found one person I can go there with, the guy up in Mule Creek. But um, yeah, so for me, I think I was raised in a life without trauma, which says a lot. It is a big testament to be able to do the work that I do because I don't have a lot of things that trigger me that I've been able to find so far in these 57 years. So the fear factor for me isn't large. And I really have a pristine look of people. When I sit down and talk to them, I meet them for the first time, I don't automatically think they're manipulating me or I'm going to be hurt. So with that, I'm very much open to what I'm getting myself into and to be able to take in what they're saying.
So who's been that hero? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to do this work?
I, of course, would love to say my mom. But as I get into this work and the people that I meet, there are, and this is going to bring me to tears, there's so many superheroes that I meet with every day. They're in prison, right? They've had the time and luxury of what you and I don't have to be able to really look introspectively. And I think what hits me most with them is that they have to look to their darkest moment and really look at what it was that incriminated them in the first place. So many of them have to forgive those parents or forgive those abusers. So I've sat down with over 1,500 people in prison, and I've never met one that wasn't a victim first.
Yeah. What was one of the most challenging interviews that you didn't realize you were walking into, but ended up turning into one of the better learning experiences or more exuberant spirits that you were around?
I can't just give you one. You really
Okay.
won't.
I sometimes there's one that pops out, but I guess maybe it's more of a theme. Like, how often does that happen where you walk in? Like, do you go in with a blank slate or do you go in with precognitive kind of notions of what you're walking into? How do you approach to get yourself to a point where you're either surprised or I don't know. I guess just psychologically, how do you approach it?
So I don't have a narrative.
Okay. All right.
100%. I walk in like you and I meeting.
Yeah.
I I don't know what to expect,
Yeah.
but people in my line of work have to know I'm coming. So I don't have the advantage of just meeting someone like Brandon Statton did with his model on the street and just extemporaneously interview people. So they know I'm coming. So typically they have something on their mind.
Yeah.
I usually talk to them and something bubbles up pretty quickly, whether they talk about their mom or there's just something in their life that's interesting. Um, but there's not a day that doesn't go by that I'm not startled by what I'm sitting in. So most of our correspondence or most of our interviews are done via mail. And so we have a little PO box in San Quentin Village, and we get a lot of our stories there. So there's this one guy inside. His name is Steve. We don't usually share last names because I'm so worried that people will then go Google that name and then that person will become the crime. They won't be
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this guy's name because it's fresh with me and I think it deserves it. So his name's Steve Embry, and he was in a class inside San Quentin, and I'd met him a few times. And he is in a class where they decided to do a prom, and they get to invite their daughters. So it morphs itself into a father-daughter dance. And so he's able to bring his daughter in, who's in his young 20s. He's never had a dance with her. And they had, luckily, had press there that day. So there's a picture of them together. And it's probably the most enriching day of his entire life.
Wow.
Well, a month later, she gets in a car accident and dies. So, what's really startling with people in prison is they can't attend a funeral, they can't hug a family member. No one around them knows what's happening, doesn't know those people, right? So, it's a really, really dark place they go to, and no release for it. So, Steve decides to write to us, and he writes me maybe 5 sentences and sends me a picture of them. So I edit it, and we put it online. And then last Tuesday, inside San Quentin, we had our annual appreciation event where I get to actually see these guys in person and shake their hand. So we had a 200, probably about 200 guys there, and it was for about 2 hours. And they performed the most gorgeous things you've seen, Joe. Everything from spoken word to poetry to Hawaiian dances to bringing in the dogs that they may be training for the puppy program. And Steve wasn't on our agenda to talk. He gets up there, and I'm not usually so emotional, so I apologize, but
You're fine.
he gets up on stage and he hadn't yet talked about what had happened to his daughter. And it was literally like her eulogy.
Wow.
And he's there in front of 250 of us and really starts talking about her and how being able to write was to us was the first avenue that he was able to have to release everything that he's had bottled up inside him. So um I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah.
No idea. And it happens again and again and again in these interviews, whether they be in person or they be written. So yeah, what I do is it feels like a big gift to be able
Yeah.
to actually talk to people that are healing, have done the hard work, or maybe they, or just in a spot where, I look at it as their developmental journey, right? Where are each one of us in it? So it's kind of a big psych lesson that is just so gorgeously moving.
It's interesting. Before we got on, you were asking me about me, and I think this is totally fine to put in here because that's a part of what your connection is to human beings. And you want to feel connected, and it's the journalistic part, it's all of that. And one thing I didn't tell you, which is probably akin to what you're doing, one of my side projects that I've started doing about 2 months ago, I decided to set up a petition to get Dwight Gooden back in the Hall of Fame. Are you familiar with Dwight Gooden? He was a pitcher for the New York Mets. He was a phenom. He came in the league at a very young age, had one of the best seasons of any pitcher at 19. He was in New York, and he went through kind of throughout his career, he went through kind of a litany of things from drugs to arrests and things that kind of happened. But he had a
Hmm.
wonderful career. He won a championship with both the Yankees and Mets, pitched a no hitter at 31, all of these things. Okay. So he went through all of these troubles and he came to Kansas City, and he was my hero growing up. I had posters in my room. I love Doc, loved the '86 Mets. So he comes to town, and I meet him. I was a part of the press corps, and he was inducted into something called the Hall of Game. And I was struck by how warm and wonderful he was. And I interviewed him and had a couple questions, and I'm just bespeckled by the fact that I'm meeting my childhood hero. So as the years go on, I'm thinking he's not the Hall of Fame. He got totally voted down the first time in 2006 and didn't get enough of the percentage. And I just don't feel okay with that. And before I left that room, I told him I'll see you in Cooperstown. And I've been trying in earnest to get I got a letter to Cooperstown. I've started a petition. I'm starting conversations. He's totally cleaned up. He's totally rectified. He's donating his time to different organizations, Alzheimer's, autism. He's a wonderful human being, huge heart, and it's a part of what you're talking about. He's rehabbed his life, and I want to. With Doc, I hope that I can create a movement where we forgive these people that have had issues in their lives that had nothing to do with what they did on the field. He didn't do anything on the field that compromised his playing to get
Mhm.
him to this point. And it's been a really interesting, very revealing process. But I hope that we do that more with athletes and with people that have had issues like these people in these prisons, where it's okay as a human being to be fallible. But
Yeah,
it's also okay for us as a public to say it's okay. We're going to embrace you, and you deserve to be in this place with everybody else because no one in here doesn't have blemishes on their record.
exactly. We shouldn't be judged by our worst mistake,
Exactly. And that's
right?
kind of the idea of this. What are we doing as humans if we aren't embracing the rehab and embracing the other side instead of making people suffer for the rest of their existence for choices that they made to mask trauma? Because he had very traumatic beginnings,
Hmm.
right?
And we're
So,
not set up as a society to handle that, right? It's not like breaking your leg where, okay, we'll take you to a doctor, we'll fix you. Oh my gosh, you look great. How are you doing? Right? There's no visible when you have all this mental trauma going on. So I always tell people that I wish that there's a better way to incarcerate than what we're doing now. It's
yeah,
sounds pie in the sky. But I think like the very first day that you're shackled, right? You've been put in the back of that police car. They turn to you and say, "Hey, what's going on? Are you homeless? Are you drug addicted? Do you have a mental illness? What is it?" And there we deal with it, right? Like the same thing that you're looking at with this guy. Like, let's break down these problems that got you here
yeah,
and then let's fix you from there. Let's not put you in a prison where it costs us $120,000 and a correctional officer, after they spend their time working with you, have about a 5-year lifespan because they have done so much deterioration to their brain and to their body. So that's not healthy,
yeah, yeah. No, it's not.
right?
So let me ask you this. Of
Mm.
everything that you've done in your life up to this point, everything you've evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
My 4 kids.
Yeah, yeah,
For sure. And they're able to go into prison with me. And even, now as I'm sitting here talking to you, they're always first and foremost on my mind. I have a son that just graduated from the University of Oregon, is trying to break into sports business. So as you're talking and I'm thinking of these people, but yes, I'm really proud of this nonprofit because it is just a justice that the world needs. And it's an answer to so much. And just to wake people up empathetically and compassionately is, I mean, I can't tell you, Joe, I instantly thought when we went into this, and not being the victim of a violent crime or any kind of injustice, really, that I would get a huge backlash from the victims. I really, even to this day, I'm paranoid, like, who am I going to be re-triggering? I'm not familiar with this world. What's coming my way? And the exact opposite has happened.
wow,
It's been kindness. Doors have been opened and doors have been opened. So, I'm a firm believer that if you really sit down and listen to someone else's story, you'll find there's more that binds us together than tears us apart. And people really do want that kindness in their life.
sure.
It's all inside each and every one of us.
Absolutely. So you have to deal with heavy stuff. When you're in these scenarios, no matter how you slice this, you are dealing with heavy things constantly. How do you protect yourself? How do you ground yourself? How do you stay focused? And how do you protect your soul?
I eat chocolate.
There
If
you
you really
go.
want to break it down, that's my vice. Um, What I'm assuming when you ask that question, and I think what people think is you're sitting in this situation, or even yesterday, I'm on a yard talking to a couple of guys, there's guards with guns pointed down on us. You don't know who's walking by with a shank. You don't know. That to me is not the fear. The fear more is of the correctional officers and what I've been through. So the amount of time it's taken to get clearances, to get the right clothes on, to be able to enter a gate at that certain time and it be okay to come on. There's not an alarm happening. There's not something traumatic already happening in that yard. So to physically get all the stars lined up to get you to that point where you may or may not have a camera in front of you and you're able to have a conversation and then to have that person present. And are they ready? Right? We're going to open up a can of worms. And then do I have the safety net to pick them up afterwards? Um, so how do I take care of myself after I get to that point? Um, I think just being positive. It
Yeah.
sounds real trivial.
Right.
Like I told you, it's a big gift for me to sit down there and do that.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel honored. I mean, probably the same you do with interviewing people and getting to know them. It's like, whoa, I'm not telling people my secrets, and you're just gonna, cough them up right here.
Yeah.
But it's also the gift of being able to share with, people like you and I and listeners that they are invisible people in their world, and I am given the opportunity to make them visible.
Yeah.
I mean, that is soul filling on every level.
Yeah. Absolutely. So everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that you interview, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, well, I'm a woman and a human, and we're all critical. So I'm highly critical of myself all the time.
Hmm.
I'm worried. I'm very worried. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I do the wrong thing? How's this person feeling now? Do I have to go back and make amends for that? Should I redo that? Um, but at the end of the day, I know that what I'm doing and every intention I have with conversations and work that I do, it's filled with compassion, right? I think it's good. Um, but I don't know. I might have to go and ask people.
Yeah, no, that was a good answer. It seems like it requires a dissertation, but sometimes that's a very succinct answer is the best one. So let me ask you this. Of anybody in the history, whether they're alive or ghosts, anybody that's been alive, that's gone through adversity or anything that you could interview, if you could interview one person, who would you love to sit down with?
Michelle Obama.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
think that there is a black person in this world who is able to sit in her position is startling to me.
Yeah.
85% of the people in San Quentin State Prison are black. It's very much has its origins into thousands of years as to what it means to be a criminal and what's the injustice of that. Um, and there is something that she always says that I have to live by every single day. When they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
So, yes, I admire that woman.
Absolutely. I love the book. I remember I forgot when the brick went through the front window of the White House and just how that whole thing started, that whole cycle, a new cycle of what we're living in right now. And the fact that people thought she was even going to run for president is the most foolish thing. Like you just read the book. Like she's been very clear. She's not going to get anywhere near it. And
No,
good
it's
for
so
her.
enlightening. I love that book.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well,
So
but before you, I know you have another question for me. I'm going to ask you, who would you interview? Or have you?
that's one of the things that's interesting. I always wanted to interview Dwight Gooden, and I actually did during this process, which was highly emotional. Like anytime I've talked to him, it's been a very emotional thing because I realize it's a weird thing to not only meet your hero because it's a risk, but to meet somebody that is as good and kind as him. And he was such a wonderful interview. He's so great to talk to anytime I have. And it's still just kind of dreamy and surreal. But if I could really meet and interview anybody, I think Barack would be great. And I think even Bill Clinton would be very dynamic. I saw Bill speak in '05 at the Harry S. Truman Library.
Hmm.
And I've never seen anything like that in my life. When the doors opened, it was like a State of the Union, and all the particles in that room totally changed. I still
Really?
remember 20 years later things that he talked about: solar panels on high rises in Brooklyn, and just things that he was talking about that would be logical. Which again, as we enter this modern realm of what we're living through now, all of anything that's progressive has disintegrated into just absolute rubble. But
Yeah.
there was a time where politicians proudly proclaimed that they were going to do things for the people instead of it being this vendetta revenge game of absolute malarkey and nonsense. So I miss that, and I would love to talk to them about that and how we're going to get to that. And hopefully, we will use the blueprint of what we're living through now as to what we will never let our kids ever do again.
Yeah. I'm so surprised your political view given the land that you sit on today.
Oh yeah, no, I am definitely on the other side, and I'm apologizing to anybody internationally that I talk to. But no, I have always been very progressive in the way that I've viewed the political landscape, and yeah, I
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so much, and so much funding has been cut off for nonprofits and
oh
in my sector, and well, not my sector, but all of them, the impact, the long tendons that all of us are feeling from these daily tweets or whatever happens to be going on in that mind is startling. And I really think about my kids. What
yep,
would it be like? You and I didn't have that growing up. Our presidents, had their feet on the ground. They didn't have that role model. That worries me.
yeah,
It takes so much integrity out of us
I know, I
as a
know.
nation and as a person. I wonder, like, what's going to become of them? I don't know. It's scary.
It's a rabbit hole, but let's focus on the positive here. If anyone wants to get into your interviews, what you're doing, your mission, your vision, where do they go?
So we have a website called humansofsanquentin.org, and we recently did a podcast. So I've done my first 8 interviews, which I never thought in my age I would ever do this. But they're victim offender dialogues. So if you have someone on the outside who's a victim who wants to talk to their perpetrator, they can actually go into prison after much counseling. And anywhere from 6 to 3 years later, they can actually sit down in prison with your person shackled, and for 8 hours you can talk to them. So I've had the gift of talking to each one of them afterwards. We're also on all the social media channels, so Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're even on Twitter and TikTok. Like 90% of our organization is run by interns that are all in high school and college. So yes, we're anywhere, whatever your favorite social channel is, we're there.
I love it. I will put all this in the show notes. What an absolute pleasure, a delight to meet you. Thank you so much. Continue doing the wonderful work. I love it.
Oh my gosh, you're so wonderful. And I have to thank you not only for having me sit here, but to be able to share all those voices that are tucked away. You're a rare person, Joe, that really wants to hear what's going on in the underbelly of our world. So I think,
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad we ran into each other. Thank you so much. Best of luck. I appreciate it.
sure, no
Cool.
problem.